that we now have audio. Welcome to Wine Wednesday. As I said, and you guys missed, Kelly should never touch settings. It doesn't work out when Kelly touches settings. But it's Wine Wednesday, so hopefully you can now hear us. Let me know if you cannot. Let me know how everything looks and sounds. We're going to probably next week go back to just using the good old restream because for some reason, when I go multiple places, it works out better for us. But, anyways, how is everyone tonight? How are we doing? What's going on? Anybody?
I'm doing good. I have a 220 coming in this next week for myself, which is my first tank that's big in a long time. So that's exciting for me, at least.
Nice, nice. And you were the one asking questions last week about the seahorses, right?
Yeah, so I've had seahorses in the past, and I don't intend on putting them in my 220.
Right.
But I'm thinking I have I have a BioCube 32 that I could inline plumb to it,
hmm
or I have an acrylic 30 tall.
Okay.
So I'm not certain which one would be better for them because it's
Is the
been
30 an extra tall?
it's about 30, I think it's 30 inches tall.
I'd go with the BioCube. The problem with that tank is it's very tall, and the height of tanks is overrated for seahorses. And the issue with that Pacific tank is it's too thin, not enough lateral area. I would take lateral space over height any day.
Okay, that makes sense. I
That's what I was trying to figure out. It's like I've heard it both ways where it's lateral is better, and I've heard it better where vertical is better, and I can never get a clear
If you go back,
assignment as
if you were to go back and read through different literature going through the years, you'd find where they originally were recommending 16, 18 inches height. And then it got to where it was a few more inches and a few more inches. Then it got to 30 inches. And now there's people telling you need them, 72 feet high or something like that. It's gotten ridiculous. And height is good. I'm not going to knock the height, but height with the loss of the lateral or horizontal space is not good. Seahorses move around more side to side than they do up and down. Now, supposedly you need the height to breed, but my pot bellies are in a 16-inch tall round tub, or the water volume is 16 inches high, and I stopped trying to breed them 2 years ago, and I still get fry all the time.
that's pretty awesome.
Okay,
Because
so
my
go ahead.
plan was okay. So my plan was to plumb a separate pump in through the refugium, like build basically a skimmer box in the refugium, and so that way like any microfauna would basically fall over the skimmer tray into the pump that was going into that tank. So hopefully more microfauna makes it into that tank to help with feeding and stuff like
Why
that.
do you want the microfauna to go to that tank?
The microfauna will go to both tanks, but I'm just saying this. In my idea is to increase the microfauna, hopefully for feeding.
For the seahorses?
Yeah.
Remember, most of the microfauna is too small for the seahorses to use.
Okay.
A lot of people think copepods are great for seahorses, but a normal sized seahorse eating a copepod is like you and I eating rice 1 grain at a time. It's simply not enough mass. Now, if we're talking amphipods and live mice, it's a different ball game. But if we're talking copepods, for the most part, they'll be ignored.
Okay.
Amphipods and live
Oh,
mice, it's a different ball game.
okay, so that is working. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so sorry. Harkins, I'm sorry. I'm playing with the settings as we're all talking here, just trying to make sure we get it to where Lucy's tank's looking great and everything. to the public. But what are you planning to do with the 220? Like it, other than connect it to the other tank?
It'll be a full reef tank.
Full reef? No special.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Dan? Sorry.
My question was going to be about temperature. Do you have a target
Uh,
temperature range?
so I have probably a dozen scullies at this time, and there will probably be a dozen more going in that tank. So probably 75, 76. I have a large chiller, easily capable of that volume as well.
If you keep it at 75, you'll probably do fine.
Yeah, it's not what everyone wants to hear in the reef hobby, but in my service company, I've learned a little cooler means everything is a little more stable. It doesn't grow stuff as fast, but
Right. It
it's
slows
stable.
things down. That's both good and bad things. It slows down.
Right.
Yeah.
And hey, Kim, quick question for Kim in the audience. When I'm looking at the screen, I'm seeing Lucy's tank, but it's all blurry. Does it look pretty good to you guys? Is just what I'm wondering. We were trying to make this easier, so anyhow, didn't mean to interrupt the conversation, guys. I just wanted to ask her that real quick, but that's really exciting. So this is your first time having a big tank, eh? You said.
Since we moved to Vegas, it's the first time I've had a big tank. At the office at the service company, we have a 300 deep dimension, so I mean that
You're
was kind of my baby.
you know how to take care of
But
it, but it's your first for you, huh?
so I've always had like a tank, but never a massive tank. Like I have a BioCube 32. I run a 6 gallon, and a 2.5. So I'm very comfortable in the nano world by all means. Um, but some would say I borderline cheat because I have auto water changers on every single one of these systems. So
And when you say auto water changer, do you use like a specific? What do you use?
one more time, sorry you broke up.
I'm sorry. With the auto water changer, you're talking about an actual like the machine type thing, correct?
Yeah, so I have I have and two auto aquas on the really little systems, because they just run off of uh, like the laser level um, adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the BioCube, I have an Apex
Ah,
water change.
we were talking about the Apex a few weeks ago. I'm desperately interested
Yeah.
in that. But anyhow, well, no, that's still cool. Very cool news. Hey, really quick, Lucy, I don't know if you are having connection stuff go on or what, but I was curious. You did a post about that big red macro that you have. Have you ever been able to get it to attach to any rocks or anything like that? Is she still here? Apparently, Lucy's left us. Okay, never mind. I thought I'd ask, hoping before she left. All right. Well, sorry about that. Anyways, what else is going on with you, Hawkins?
Um, for work, I just picked up a brand new lobster system where we cycle 5,000 lobsters a month for casinos.
Wow. I mean,
So
that's something different. What all is involved?
40, a chiller as big as a house
I
because the
bet.
water is 40. The water is 42 degrees. They're bringing in Maine lobsters. So to
Wow.
Las Vegas. A 10-foot tall protein skimmer. Uh, and I'm just taking over this account, and personally, the filtration's insufficient.
Gotcha.
for the volume that they bring in. Like, I'm gonna have to be setting up brand new SOPs for them because they're. I don't know if many people know, like when they ship lobsters for eating, they ship them basically in the equivalent of newspaper, like just wet newspaper, so that they're not shipping water, because
Right.
obviously that's the biggest cost. Well, when they when they arrive at the facility, they're not washing them, they're not anything, they're just putting them straight into the system. And when I got there, like the ammonia level in that water was insanely high. And I'm like, well, it's basically from that process. So I'm having to kind of teach them the basics. As ironic as that is a company that basically handles that kind of stuff. So
I mean,
it's interesting.
that's how it goes sometimes, though. That's how it goes. I'm not surprised that you have to teach them. uh, anyways, that's
They
pretty
don't
cool.
they don't
Go ahead.
they don't even have an RO system.
Wow.
That's the scary part.
I mean,
So
now with your line of work, do you run into this a lot, where you get clients, or you take on jobs and they're just really not there, so to speak?
so this is per se not my normal arena. I normally am. I mean, as we talked about at MACNA last year, I
Right.
kind of specialize mainly in very high end,
Sure.
like exotic animals and um, like large reef tanks and koi ponds. So this is kind of a new realm for me. Um, but so normally I build 95% of the systems from like design to execution to continuous service for years. So this is a new world for me to come into,
Mhm.
taking over a system that I've kind of never touched, never been part of the design process. But I mean, based on their volume, I've been given a fairly reasonable budget to kind of overhaul the system. So that's kind of the nice part when you're dealing with something like that,
Yeah.
is there is a little bit of money to fix it. And the very first thing I'm like, okay, we're going to be getting an RO system. They actually used really high quality salt, like reef quality salt for these lobsters. So that was kind of surprising. Like pharmaceutical grade
Wow.
style salts. So they're very clean
Hmm.
for the salt they use. Um, but the
Just
problem is when you mix it with straight Las Vegas tap water,
sure.
where where the DKH of Las Vegas plain tap water is like 14.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
like adding it's like adding 8 to 14. My HANA checker will not read it. Like your HANA checker goes to 20.
Yeah.
So I actually had to do the half and half dilution, half RO and half water,
Hmm.
to figure out that the DKH of that water is like 22.8.
Wow.
So
That's insane.
I would
um,
imagine the tap water also has chloramines, doesn't it?
so we are a chloramine using state. So yes, that is a huge problem. But and when I like started explaining all of this, it was like sheer panic, and the ammonia levels directly reflect the fact that there's chloramine usage in the water. So you know, there's a couple of things just for my sake, like we're gonna install an Apex on this system so I can remotely look at it all the time. Um, with obviously like the more advanced sensors like an ORP sensor, stuff like that. So I can keep track of like whether the pumps get shut off, if somebody messes with the skimmer, any of that, it's gonna yell at me basically.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm kind of.
and then
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
because I mean obviously we're dealing with like a very high dollar value as to the products that are involved. I mean the lobsters. Um, I'm going to be bringing a reef bot in to do testing on the system. Because as of right now, they have somebody that twice a day daily tests the water,
Mm-hmm.
but that data isn't being transferred anywhere. They just basically look at it and then, oh, it's too high, do a water change.
Oh,
Like
yikes.
that's their current method, and I'm like, wait, you have no historical data for me
So,
to
okay.
go back to.
Right.
So
Tell. Go ahead. Sorry.
so so that's why I want the reef bot, is because the reef bot can basically, it's 14 vial, or I think it's 14 or 12 vials. And so basically any test that you want to perform that uses liquid reagent, they've basically taught it how to use it.
I'm actually
And it has a
I'm looking up the reef bot as we speak. So this is like, I mean, I honestly didn't know what it was, which is terrible. But
that's no, it's, you know what, it's newer to the market. It's a
okay,
very kind of specialized item. But it's a basically it's a small computer that uses a color, uh, color colorometer, like the color reading uh, camera, to basically test any type of products. So I can test nitrates and nitrites and ammonia, and if I really cared about it, I can check GKH, calcium, magnesium, that kind of stuff. But in this case, it's more like fish only, so I'm more concerned about the nitrate, nitrite, ammonia. Um,
sure. And does
you
it
know,
like
taking
does it keep that information for you, or are you transferring it into
so
something else? Go ahead.
no, so it automatically tests and it automatically logs it and it automatically charts it for you as well.
Wow. Well, I looked it up.
So
It's not cheap, but I can see how it'd be very, very cool. You know.
cheap, unfortunately, in this hobby, cheap is a relative term
Right.
for most people. And when I'm setting up systems, like, there are kind of some base standard items that I require for my clients.
Mm-hmm.
One is an Apex, and now with my reef clients is a Trident. We have a platinum dealer through Apex that we can get. We have 4 Tritons in the fleet as of now, but every one of my reef tank customers will have one. Because, like, for most of my clients, I only get to come see them once a week, once every other week, or once a month.
Right.
So I literally have a board on the wall, and I can see every single one of my customers' data, like,
That's
on
very
one
cool.
screen.
That's really, really
So,
cool.
like, literally, and if somebody goes red, meaning out of parameters, like, it's the only one on the screen.
Yeah.
Or if there's multiples, then obviously we have that kind of ability to adjust to
Gotcha.
more than one being red.
See,
That
Dan,
way,
go ahead. Sorry.
my service technicians, they can walk in the morning and literally see, like, okay, I have a tank out of spec. So,
Right.
like, first thing that happens is my customer should have already gotten an alert. Someone in the office already got an alert about it prior to even seeing that. So they may have already called that customer, and let them know, like, hey, you need service based on, the information we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
so
honestly, what I'm seeing in the future is, Dan, we need to set you up to where you can monitor all of my tanks and equipment. So I won't even have to call you and say code red. You can just see it. That'd be great. Hey, actually, one more question. You said that each of your clients has this. How, is there any kind of range or anything like that? Like, what if you have a client that's really really far away? Doesn't matter. It's all computer, or what? Did that make sense?
so basic Oh, you mean like my customers, what their range is?
Yeah, like,
So, like our service company is based out of Southern California. We
mhm,
service from northern San Diego County, so just below Orange County, to as far as Ventura County, the southern Ventura County area in Southern California. I will openly tell you there is more expense to be on the other sides of those windows because we are based out of Orange County, like North Orange County.
mhm.
Um, but if a customer feels like we're a good fit and we feel like they're a good fit for us, because something I learned as a kid because my dad owned a business is there is such thing as bad money. It sounds
Right,
terrible, but
right.
if your system is more of a headache than we're capable of handling, then it's bad money. So
I hear you.
I would rather know that we can make you happy and we can do, everything possible to where you only need me to come once a month or once every other week or once a week and not have to be at your house every 3 days,
Right.
you know. That
Gotcha.
being said, I do have customers with systems that require us to be there 3, 4 times a week, but it's kind of the exception.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I would hope that would be the exception. That's quite a bit. I mean, that's a pretty, and I'm looking at the comments too. Sorry, as we're just chit chatting. Sometimes we just chit chat. This is fun. And
yeah, because
Cheryl,
I
go
I
ahead.
closed I closed my YouTube just because it was going back and forth.
I know there's a
So
buffer. I know. We'll do more testing this week and figure it out. No big deal. We can still have a little fun here, and I'll learn from it. Don't touch the settings, dang it. I think we'll have to go back to the other way. But
I do, I I don't think it's your setting. I really think it's just the YouTube background is about 30 seconds behind.
right, no, I know, but literally here's okay. I'll just tell you very quickly. Sorry if this is boring to everybody, but we'll make it better next week. Um, Bottom line is, I was using Restream to go to Facebook and to YouTube and to Twitter and all these other places, and literally that should be using more, power bandwidth, all that stuff. It should be a lot worse. And so I decided I'd
Yeah,
see if it was easier for people to connect and jump into the Hangout and such if I used one Hangout, made it unlisted, then I could use the same one each week and just did, the weekly event just on YouTube. And boy, when I went, YouTube is telling me my settings are all whack. It told me that this was wrong, bit rate's wrong, this was that, and I'm like, it was fine last week for everybody else. I'm not sure. So I don't know. I'll play with it. I'll figure it out. It could be whatever. Who knows? But if it's easier for me to just go back to the other way, then I will. It is what it is. But Cheryl, very good point. She made a point just a few minutes ago about how we are all each other's monitors. She said we're already monitoring each other's tanks in the local reef club, and we do that in this in the Seahorse world to an extent. Not probably exactly what you meant, but do you guys actually go through and help each other like that in your local reef club? Because I think that's really awesome. And Kim's just kind of hanging with us because she's like trying to help out. And Lucy, don't worry about your connection. It is what it is. Okay, now that I've gone through all that, what else do you guys want to chat about? I'm so upset about how bad the stream is looking that I'm up for anything. Chit chat, chit chat.
Well, you
Anybody?
could have my week.
What happened with you this week, Dan?
Well, I went in for my pre-op
Okay.
and the for the eye, and they tried to take the laser measurements of the eye, and they couldn't do it.
Oh no.
Um, the cataract is too thick and has gotten too big. So I spent 2 hours with my head back with them with a handheld Doppler poking me in the damn eye, trying to get the damn measurements with a ultrasound. Um, and then I don't know if you've paid attention, but the website has been giving me grief for now a little
Right.
bit of time.
Right.
I think that's finally resolved.
Good.
Um, and then last night I had to go pick up my daughter because the training went out on the van.
Oh no. Okay, you win. All I did was have some bad settings. You win. Is the van I mean, is it gonna are you where are you at with that? Are you gonna be able to fix it? And,
No, it's not worth fixing. It was
oh,
a beat up jalopy that they had picked up to use, and it's if we can get it scrapped for not having to pay for it to be towed, we've done good.
gotcha. Still that sucks. And so what's the next step with the medical stuff? What do they do now?
Well, Tuesday I go in and they attempt the first surgery, and hopefully that works.
Oh jeez.
Um, they told me it may take up to three, but we won't know. They're doing me last in case the anticipated complications they're expecting develop during that. Then they'll have the specialists available. If not, won't know until they take the patch off and then check, and then I may have to go right back in.
Gotcha. That's no, oh man, I hate hearing that. I'm sorry. But you'll
Well,
have you
what she
now. Wait,
told me was,
are you saying you're gonna walk around with a patch on your eye for a while? Sorry.
well, I go in Tuesday, so you go. I'm scheduled for like 12:40 or 12:45 or something like that. And once I wake up, I'll get to go home, but I'll go home with a patch.
Okay.
And the next day, I go in at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they will take the patch off and examine and see if the lens held.
Ah,
Um,
gotcha.
if it if it holds, I'm probably going to be good to go. If it doesn't, then I'll have to go back in and they'll actually have to suture the lens to the eye.
Oh,
Um, so it's a wait and see. And they didn't tell me ahead of time until I found out on my own that what I wasn't anticipating was that for a week afterwards, I can't bend over or do anything like that. And
oh
I guess
no.
that increases the interocular pressure, and that kind of screws up my plans because that means I can't do a lot of the tasks I need to do.
Right. Well, and for the record, I just want you to know that I wasn't trying to make light of the situation. I was just picturing you walking around like
I know
with
that.
with the pirate patch. I was like, yeah,
I I
but
know that. Well,
okay.
the flip side of this is that they're going to put me out,
Hmm.
and so I don't have to go through what I went through during the pre-op crap. So um, most people don't get put out for this procedure, but I guess I have unusually sensitive eyes in terms of natural reflex. You know, it was funny.
Gotcha.
Nice thing was I had four girls in there, and of course, two of them were trying to pry my eyes and hold them open, and one jabbing me and the other one running the computer. But
But it was a bunch of
um,
girls. I get you.
but for surgery, they'll put me out, so I won't have. I'll go to sleep. I'll wake up and see what happens.
Well, we're all, yeah, I know everybody, you can see the comments, everybody's crossing fingers and saying, sending prayers. We need you to be okay and tip top shape right away. Hi, Chris. Hi, everybody. Just saying hello. I do see you guys jumping in. Sorry, the stream's a little shaky now, but we're glad to have you. Anyhow, Dan, so yeah, well, please let us know and keep us updated. Um, I don't know. I don't even know what else to say. I'm so sick of the medical crap these days that it's not even funny. So I hope it
Well,
does work
this
out.
isn't.
Go ahead.
Well, this could be something much more serious. I mean, they're pretty good at what they do with this stuff nowadays.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, hopefully it's very quick because all those little fry and those tanks need siphoned and all that good stuff. Can't have you out and about too long. So, anyways, anything else going on with you besides all that?
Um, no, I'm slowly working on my room, getting it up to speed. I got one of my big tanks out that I needed out of my way, so that was a huge plus. Now I can, clean up that space and start reorganizing some of the tanks in the setup that I want. Kind of a pain in the butt, but to move one tank, I have to empty another tank and get it moved so I can move that tank, and I got to play do-si-do, if you will. But slowly but surely, I'm slowly getting at it.
Gotcha. Are you taking pictures like to show it, or are you going to show us when you're done, or what?
It's not that nice looking to take pictures.
Well, still, I think I've noticed that a lot of people really seem to enjoy seeing the true stuff versus just the
Well,
pretty. You know.
well, it's nice when you have, when I put up my back building and it was new, it was nice to take pictures because everything was new and pretty, if you will. In real aquaculture, if you go into a true aquaculture place, most people would be, shocked at what they see because a lot of facilities have dirt, gravel floors, and it's not all pretty and nice looking like you see in some of the pictures. Some of the commercial places have a specific building, for example, that you go in if they have visitors to tour, but you don't go in the other buildings.
Right. Of course.
Part of that's biocontrol. I mean,
True.
Well,
for
that should come into play, but I can just tell you that I've been behind the scenes at many of these places and I've seen what really goes on, and I've worked with a lot of people in aquaculture that you know I, I know more than the average person of what goes on in these places.
yeah, I'm really familiar with the coral side. Like I'm good friends with Dan from Tidal Gardens, and that's why he doesn't really like open door. He has like one event a year that's like kind of more open, but it's an event.
Yep.
And then like even us, like we have a warehouse, and I really don't let anybody but our employees in. Like I have customers all the time, like, oh, can I come see the fish that you're QTing for me? I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Biocontrolled site.
Not a week goes by that I don't get somebody asking to come by. And I have two problems with it. The first problem, well, three problems actually. First of all, because I do it from home, I cannot get the proper liability coverage to protect myself. So that's number one. Number two is anytime I get a visitor that comes in that I take a tour through, it takes time away. And sometimes I don't mind that, but when it becomes a weekly thing and it takes, all of a sudden you're spending 2 or 3 hours a day when you're already working 10 or 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, it just gets to be a little much. And lastly is the considering
Biosecurity.
the biosecurity, I'm just not set up to do anything as far as preventative with people walking in.
Well, that's
Yeah,
just a darn shame because I'm coming to visit. Hey, are you going to Macna this
Bleach
year?
bath first. For me?
No, Hawkins.
am I going to what?
Are you going to Macna this year?
I should be at MACNA. Likely I'll be attending as like an actual MACNA or MASNA member,
Ooh,
helping the board with the
gotcha.
volunteers. So, because I did it last year and they liked what I did, so that's from my understanding what's going to happen. So, we'll see. I should be there.
Gotcha.
And then I will be at Reeferpalooza, California. That's kind of the event where all my customers get to coral shop and do all that kind of stuff. And like, so biocontrol is kind of big to me. Like for any of my customers, I know me and you have discussed this, but if you want a new fish, A, you buy it through me, and B, it goes through 60 to 90 days of quarantine, depending on what species it is.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
and it's the same with coral. Coral it's about 45 days as opposed to the 60 to 90. But, like, I don't care what you buy at a show, as long as it comes back to my facility and I get to make sure it doesn't have aptasia and doesn't have acro-eating flatworms, and in a facility that is prepared to handle that. So
Gotcha. No, I hear ya. I hear ya. I'm curious though. How do you? You said you quarantine things for so long before you will sell to anyone. Um, do you ever treat or do you just watch? I mean, is it
oh,
like? Go ahead.
so there are 5 different systems in the building. Um, I have a 100% all the time Coopermine treated system,
Hmm.
which that's all it does is Coopermine. And then I have a system that is pretty much all the time on Quasi Pro.
Wow.
Um, that's kind of my more common treatment method.
Hmm.
Um, than anything else. I've had pretty good results with it. So I'm on the. Sorry, 1 second.
No, you're fine. I'm actually reading Chris's. Chris from Seahorse World is having discussions about prevention being better than the cure over there too. I know you guys can't always talk about all of the things that you do, but I certainly know as someone who buys the fish and coral and seahorses and such that I definitely appreciate that you guys take these things so seriously, and yeah, I get it, and I'm very appreciative, and I know that everyone else is also. So, and I feel I
Well, it,
So
it makes sense on more than one level.
yeah.
so yeah, I mean, we're not always a treatment first facility. I mean, with certain fish that I know are going to have internal parasites, stuff like that, I do put them straight into a copper system. But I mean, it's not a ton of my fish.
Okay, no,
But
wait.
I
Now,
mean,
actually, I have a really good question there, and this is how would you know? You just made the statement that certain fish, like, are there certain fish that you just assume will have problems, or is it from certain areas, or how do you determine that?
so in general, with large angelfish,
Okay.
um, I typically have found that a more majority of them come in with a large number of internal parasites to external parasites. So my large angelfish go straight into a copper system. My tangs normally never see a copper system because, in my opinion, their digestive tracts are too compromised by copper.
Okay.
Um, but with large angelfish like French angels, queen angels, when they're above that like a foot and a half mark, so you're talking a show tank quality fish that's
Gotcha.
coming in. I would rather be in the, let's say, excessively conservative market than the let's see what happens market, because realistically in that area I may need to wait 90 days to kind of see what happens to
Hmm.
those fish if I didn't preventatively treat them. But I mean, they're kind of my large angels are kind of my exception to the rule,
Hmm.
where most of my fish just, unless it's wild caught clownfish, which we don't buy anymore really. With the advent of aquaculture of clownfish, you don't need to buy wild caught clownfish.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so, I mean, I have a few customers who request odd species of clownfish, and sometimes I have to go that far. But I mean, that's where more than likely, like, we'll preventatively treat for Brooklynella and that kind of stuff. So,
Well,
um,
the one of the reasons that I asked is the question was just kind of looming, and this one is kind of shot at Dan, but anyone can play a part in it. But like for instance, it used to be seahorses were so hard to keep because we were getting in wild caught seahorses. Now there's aquacultured seahorses, captive bred seahorses that are, going to be easier to care for. And we've gone through the reasons. It's not just about whether, they have something or not. It's about the stress level. It's about being raised in tanks. It's about, the biosecurity of the breeder, blah, blah, blah. But Dan, you don't treat all seahorses, or do you? Or
No, I
can you
don't
talk
treat all
about that?
seahorses.
Can you talk about that?
Well, I
Maybe you
can to
can.
some extent.
Okay.
First of all, I think it's important to point out here what he's talking about mostly is preventative parasitic or prophylactic uh,
Treatment.
parasitic treatment, not
Mhm.
prophylactic antibiotics, which I'm strongly against.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
if
Well, I'm just thinking about
I agree with
seahorses and the
using
worms. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well with seahorses. It's changed because wild caught seahorses did come in with things, and if they weren't cleaned up ahead of time, they presented problems.
Mm-hmm.
With the success that we have in aquaculture now with seahorses, if you're buying from a breeder, you should not expect problems.
Because
If
they're
people ask me,
treating.
should I quarantine? No, because they're coming in clean. We're raising them. It's not like we have to take them in from somewhere and clean them up. We're raising them.
Right.
Now, during
Right.
that course of raising, if we see issues, we address them. And you know, I'm not going to tell you that I've never treated a seahorse that's been sold. That would be a lie, because we start, newborn erectus day one on formalin. Um,
Sure.
but by and large, most of what we do is cleaning up ectoparasites from, high density loading in systems.
Right.
Um, I almost never, it used to be I was very good at treating bacterial issues. The problem is I hate to sell something once I've treated it for bacteria. And now
So
we've learned that if we have a seahorse with a bacterial infection, we get it out of the building. And
Gotcha.
that long term has better effect because there's less chance of it spreading.
Well, and I do understand what you're saying, and that's the benefit of buying seahorses from a breeder like you, or fish from someone, like you, or like Hawkins, who's doing these actions ahead of time to make sure that the fish, either raising them as you are, or quarantining them and treating if necessary. I get it. I just wondered, like at the breeding scale, if the seahorses, I understand you don't have to get in new seahorses all the time because you breed them. But when you do have to condition new seahorses, I just wondered if they were coming in worse or better or whatnot. I just was kind of curious if that gave us any indication of what's going on in the ocean. It was a far-reaching question, so no worries. And what were you
Well,
gonna?
I think
Go ahead.
in
Go
the
ahead.
ocean, things get cleaned up quickly because of predation.
Right. Okay.
oh yeah, Dan, I completely agree with you there. Like a sick animal on the reef does not survive.
Right.
Like, um, so, but uh, to go back to like what they were saying is like, so I probably in 11 years have used antibiotics a handful of times. Like we rarely run into a legitimate use for antibiotics. We really don't see that much of fish with issues that would require antibiotics. Um, if I am, the one place I do use antibiotics is in my feeder pool, where I mean we have fish that obviously are specifically grown for the sole purpose of being feeder fish for some of my very large predator tanks in freshwater and saltwater. So that is just because I know when I'm breeding and I'm batching, I can't always produce everything I need, and I have to bring in certain amounts of feeder fish. So where I can't control it, so, like I'll try not to use copper on those fish that are going into my breeder systems,
Mm-hmm.
just because then it goes downstream. Like, and I have I have reef tanks that I have predator reef tanks that if I was to put a copper treated fish in that system, I could cause all kinds of havoc. So mine is kind of like there's, what ifs. Well, sometimes I run into the what if. So, I mean, I don't, like Dan was saying, I don't really prophylactically normally treat with antibiotics. I try and stay as far away from that as I can.
And guys, just
The only
just just for the just for anybody who doesn't get it, what is the what are your reasons for not or for steering clear of antibiotics in a pre-treatment kind of situation?
well, I
For
tell you,
me,
go ahead.
oh, for me, it's just resistance issues.
Okay.
Like we've had fish that we've treated one time and then they'll get the same sickness and we'll just lose that fish using the same exact treatment. So if there's another treatment method that is not antibiotics, I choose that treatment method first.
And what were you going to
In,
say,
in,
Dan?
in
For
my
me,
Go ahead.
in my instance, there's a couple of thoughts on it. High value specimens or specimens that are extremely hard to get, I'll be more apt to treat than, say, erectus, for example, which we have plenty of.
Hmm.
Um, the problem I have with prophylactically treating is that number one, you build up resistance, but number two, you can have certain bacteria that you can knock back that you don't get rid of. For
Ah,
example, you take acid fast bacteria such as Nocardia or Mycobacterium or one of those, and you knock it back. Well, the seahorse is asymptomatic. You sell it. Now the person, it develops again, and next thing you know, they could have an epizootic episode that wipes out a tank.
oh, yeah.
So that's, from my standpoint, if I have to start treating with antibiotics, I generally don't want to sell the fish, plain and simple.
Gotcha.
And
Dan, I'm kind of this.
that's why,
I'm kind of the exact same way as you.
yeah.
So
In one of
if
my
I have
fry
to,
systems today, I had the guy that was here helping me. I pointed out I had pulled a seahorse, and in that system, I had one seahorse out of 200 that had a white tip on the tail. Now, that's a very treatable thing and very easy to treat when they're that small of an issue. And when I say small, it's just a tiny little bit of a white tip. But it's better for me to put that seahorse down and remove it from the tank so that that doesn't keep spreading. And now I'll watch the tank for the next couple of weeks to see if I see any more.
Gotcha.
You disappeared, Kelly.
I know I did it on purpose. I
I
was trying to hide something. Thanks for calling me out. Right here. I'm right here. Sorry. I was trying to hide something. It didn't go well. Anyways, okay. Sorry guys.
so so
Go ahead.
Dan kind of got on the subject, the nitty gritty subject of euthanasia, as many people hate to hear. Sometimes it is, unfortunately to say this, sometimes it is better for that fish and your brood stock or your entire tank to euthanize one fish as to let it kill every single fish in that tank.
Right.
Like
Or in
I
some cases in a building.
you're absolutely right, Dan. Like it realistically at any given time, I have between 60 and 100 fish in the different systems. And it doesn't sound like a lot of fish, but a lot of my customers are collectors and stuff like that. And 60 to 100 fish to me might be like $20,000.
Right.
So, and realistically, because I'm the one that brings them in and I require my customers to do that pre-treatment, I would be out that amount of money out the start. So yes, I would rather euthanize a fish than lose $20,000 worth of fish.
It's a
But that
definite.
also goes to, I'm sorry, Kelly.
No,
That
you go
also
ahead.
goes to why I tell people as soon as they recognize something is wrong to isolate the animal. And it's not just for the observation standpoint of the sick animal, but it's for the preservation of the rest of the tank.
See, and that just gets confusing though because there's so many cases where you hear that once a fish or seahorse or whatever has something, then the tanks hit, and you need to treat everything. So I just I'm looking for easy ways for you guys to explain how to differentiate between those situations. But I guess the bottom line is just isolate that one and then call Dan or call someone who knows, right?
Well, there's a difference between a commercial enterprise dealing with
Sure.
either high value or large amounts of fish versus a hobbyist that has, 2 or 4 seahorses and they're questioning what they should do. I would probably have a different approach in terms of treatment if I had just a single tank and those were my prized possessions. Um, and I don't mean to sound cold about it, but from my standpoint, if I've got a sick animal, I don't want that sick animal to make all the other animals sick.
Sure. No, I understand. And Cheryl, dang, you had your ex is a vet. Wow, that's really lucky that you really had some help there. One other question, guys. When you guys are talking about the antibiotics that would or would not be used, those are different than what are available to hobbyists, right? I mean, so
No,
no. Oh, okay. All right.
the
So do you think
difference is
that?
we might buy them in different packaging. When I used to buy Furon 2, I didn't buy it with the little 10 packets. I bought it in by the gram. I forget how many grams, but it was like buying 20 of the boxes of packets. And we would measure it or weigh it to dose.
So do
Yeah,
you
so
think that?
I just
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I I don't have a vet on staff, but I essentially have a vet on call
Mm-hmm.
at all times for our company. We have some koi fish that are worth, oh God, what some people pay for a house. So,
Isn't
um,
that crazy?
like, so, so realistically, for me to call the vet and bring them out for $1,000, that sounds insane to the average hobbyist. But if you have a $200,000 fish, then
Right.
$1,000 is a safe investment. Um, so because I have a vet that is actually an ichthyologist and a vet, um, that I'm really lucky in the fact that honestly they have 90% of the fish related drugs for me already, like in his stock on his truck. I can pretty much at will ask for something and get it.
Wow.
Where for some for some people, lead time might be a week, and
Yep.
that week is dollar wise insanely can be insanely costly. That's why you kind of have to go to the measures that Dan's talking about with euthanasia. Like, I can tell you every fish that I've ever euthanized felt nothing.
Right. Right.
So, um,
Do
you
you
know,
guys
like,
think that fish
uh,
in general are over medicated these days? Or I'm sorry if you weren't finished.
Yes,
Go ahead.
I do.
uh, I have to agree with Dan. Like, I also work with some fishery, like some fish farms, like for human consumption, and 100% I can tell you that those fish are over medicated. 100%.
Yeah.
They have they have specific feeds that are already medicated. Like,
I was reading a lot
before
about
they
them,
even
like even the fish we eat and such are being treated with antibiotics and such. So, anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
so I have a facility that we built in Idaho that does tilapia and they do tilapia and trout for human consumption. And and when I found out what they were feeding, I'm like, why are you pre-medicating all these fish? Like, that's insane to me. But to their enterprise, they don't hold on to these fish essentially long enough that it matters to them.
Right.
It'd be better going with
Um,
probiotics.
I'm not gonna, Dan. I'm 100% not gonna argue with that. And to be honest, the way that these fish hit the water, you wouldn't even have to mix it up. You could put the powdered probiotics on the top of the water, and it would all be gone in 15 minutes on my 300,000 gallon ponds.
Right.
Like,
Well, they make probiotics to mix in feed now that is very effective. And if you read the research that goes on with this, the probiotics are the way of the future. The problem is not everybody is caught up with it.
oh no,
And
the
I'm
the
sure there's more improvements to be made on the probiotic front as well.
oh yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about probiotics and you want to talk about like what I would say is the average consumer, um, the best product I have found is New Life Spectrum Probiotics, but it's with an X.
I've heard of it. I know what
Like
you're talking about.
that's what I found for over the counter. It's the best product that you can buy, in my opinion, if you're looking for a product for fish like that.
Yeah.
And it's available in a wide variety of sizes. Your fish store may not have it, but they sell through Walmart.com because they're that big of a distributor. So you can pretty much find whatever size you want at Walmart.com.
Wow.
So,
What were you gonna say,
but
Dan?
I mean,
Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say I use the Envy Sanalife, and I have permission from Envy to repackage it into smaller sizes for the retail customer. Um, and that is 3 forms of Bacillus species. Um, you, Probiotics, 15 years ago when I started trying using them was a whole different ballgame. Um, it was very difficult to find good probiotics for fish, and of course there was a lot of testing to know what works and what doesn't work. But back then you had to cook the stuff. It wasn't very easy to use.
yeah.
Gotcha.
And so I personally know the way that New Life Spectrum does it is they cold extrude their product first off, which is a lot better for the product in terms of it keeping its um, nutritional qualities, and
Right.
then they treat it with the probiotics post post cold extrusion, and then just dry it again through natural drying. So that's why I know and I know that the bottle says 3 million, um, 3 million units,
CFUs.
I think.
Yeah.
CFUs,
CFUs.
yeah. But I know I've gotten to see their testing, and one batch was at 3 million, and several other batches were at 8 million. So it because the one batch was at 3 million, that's what the marketing team had to use because they
Yep.
technically couldn't just throw it out. So I mean, if you're at 8 million, you're looking at two and a half, 2 2/3 as much.
Well,
So
each product has its pros and its cons. The One of the things that I liked about the Santa Life was the ease of use and the shelf life because you're dealing with bacterial spores. So for the average consumer, they can buy an amount of it, and if they're not using it very much or have a very small tank, it can be stored in the fridge for very long periods of time as long as it's kept dry and cool.
yep.
There's a variety of different probiotics out there. There's a couple of probiotic products that I really wanted to try that were in Europe, but the bacteria were not recognized as generally recognized as safe by the U.S., so I could not bring them in.
Because it's for fish and you're not eating it, they won't actually do the effort of researching that stuff.
Yep.
That's the killer part about this hobby is unless it's for actual food consumption, there is no research money to help any of that.
Well, there's quite a bit of research that's being done on food fish and with probiotics. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, a lot of what we learned and have had to experiment with comes from that instead of there isn't going to be a lot of money towards um, um, creatures that we keep in tanks versus food fish because,
Ornamental, yeah.
yeah, it's just entirely different markets. And on the ornamental side, there's so many people that are anti, you know, trying to knock it out as opposed to trying to help the hobby that it's just, unless it's something to be conservation orientated, it's just not going to get the funding.
Yeah, I know I'm going to Hawaii at the end of this month to hopefully maybe I can sit down and talk with the fish and wildlife minister there just to talk about ornamental fishing. So, and that's I'm going there on premises that I might be able to talk to him. Not that I will, but Hawaii is by far the most researched area in the world, with maybe if you count Walt's data, Fiji would be close. But
Well, my problem is with the research is that they can, a lot of times they do research, but I don't necessarily agree with the research or the methods. And I don't think that it always shows the true picture.
I'm not going to argue with you there. But when it's physical count data of the same area every year for 20 years, and the count just goes up and up and up and up, what's the chances that our fishing is actually making an impact?
No, like I
I
said,
don't
I,
know.
I don't disagree with all research. It's just some of the research. The problem I have is as soon as something is listed as a research paper, a lot of people take it as that's a
The
fact. In the
fact,
seahorse
right?
world, that's a problem because a lot of a lot of the research early on was wrong, and the new papers assume that the old papers were correct and quote them and build their premises based upon that. Um,
Yeah.
Seahorses are a different world altogether because they're cryptic animals, and when they go out and do counts, they're trying to find something
Oh,
that's hiding, and they're saying, well, there's not as many here. And for example, on the dwarfs, they went out in Tampa Bay and they measured out a certain geographic area and took sampling from it, and based their counts upon that sampling, and then repeated it the next couple of years. Well, they said that dwarfs don't move much, but the reality is, you talk to a collector, and they'll tell you that they can move as much as a mile, just because of conditions with the weather and the wave action and stuff. So,
oh yeah.
that
I mean,
in that case, the data was misguided. In the case of what you're talking about, is it's like the fisheries. The fisheries get a pretty good grip on most species on availability. I know in Florida, the collectors here, most of the laws on restrictions come from the collectors with their annual meetings with the fisheries on where the limit should be set at. The collectors don't
yeah,
want the fish population to drop too low. It hurts them.
yeah. So I'm hoping maybe I can even have that conversation, and if I can, I mean, be presenting a paper possibly to them as well. I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
That's just
as I understand it, the problem in Hawaii is not the sensible people that understand the numbers. The problem is groups that have nothing to do with it that are coming in and saying, "Stop it."
Oh yeah. I was just
100%.
I was just gonna
But the
say
problem
I
is
read a whole bunch
those
of.
groups.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Hans. Go ahead. Go ahead.
the problem is those people have the ear of the current political grouping.
Yep.
So, oh man, and it's always a challenge. And unfortunately, there's pictures of 400 dead yellow tangs, and God only knows where those yellow tangs came from. If they had been sitting in a freezer for years and years and years to make said protest, like none of that. No, there's no physical, you know, where that stuff came from, and that's the photo that killed us. You know,
Yep.
so unfortunately, and with the state of yellow tangs right now in the hobby, and the state of you know cardinal fish and all that fun stuff. You know, I don't blame Hawaii for going conservative. So I would like to say when there was data presented that has historical findings and 20 years of information, maybe they should at least take a look at it. And that's been my problem is a lot of them will just refuse to look at the data that we want to provide them because
Well,
they're all saying that it's
that is today's
misguided.
political class.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
depends
and
on
that stretches all
who
boundaries,
wants.
not just this.
Go ahead.
It's sad, really. But it also emphasizes the need for more aquaculture. The problem with aquaculture is that the cost of the end product is so much higher when it's farm raised than when it's collected.
So my personal opinion is if I can buy an aquacultured fish, I would rather spend whatever it costs to buy an aquacultured fish. Like,
Now,
Well, I agree with you there.
if
The
we could
problem
just get
is
if we could
stores
just
don't have the same concept.
yeah, I was just gonna say if we could just get the rest of the
you're
world
absolutely
to
right.
know that. I mean, that Chris with the Seahorse World, if he's still there, he can tell you all about that. They tried to really do something over there with the seahorses and with selling to China and such, and they just couldn't compete because of that pricing difference. And of course, that's a different different thing. Of course, thank goodness we're into captive bred seahorses here now, but it's just that pricing difference is so huge. I don't know how you guys would ever compete.
Well, a great example. My sister was breeding the peppermint shrimp,
Hmm.
and we were looking online, and peppermint shrimp at certain times of year will sell up to $20 a piece. So she was raising them with the thought of hopefully getting $3 or $4 a piece wholesale for them, and so she was going hog wild, had a whole slew of them. But when we started talking to people, as far as people buying them, and when I say people, I'm talking about selling them wholesale. We had to get
Yeah.
down below $2 in order to even begin to compete with what they were buying in the Caribbean, and at that point, it was a loss. There was no profit.
That's what happened with the mandarin too.
Earlier this year,
There was a bunch of
lo-
aquacultured mandarin, and they were getting very good at it, and it's just they can't keep up. I'm sorry, Harkins. What were we gonna say?
so locally, so I live in Vegas, but obviously my company is in Southern California. I had fish stores locally selling peppermint shrimp at $1.99 retail. So that tells you what they're paying per unit
Yep.
when they're buying it wholesale.
Yeah.
Now, I have access to wholesale information. I can't really tell you all what they were paying, but let's just say you can't buy a cheap cup of coffee for what they were paying for it.
Well, Christ, today you can't buy a cup of coffee for less than $10 a damn cup at some of these places.
I'm talking more like you couldn't buy a 7-Eleven cup of coffee.
I know,
Sure.
I'm being facetious.
So, well, it was great talking to you guys, but I gotta run. I gotta take care of some stuff. So,
That's okay. Thank you so much for coming in. I
hopefully
appreciate
can
it.
jump on a little bit more frequently.
Yes, and we'll get the stream fixed up so it'll
Absolutely.
be easier to join. Thanks for coming in.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Hey, Dan. Dan?
Uh-oh, what?
Oh, no, nothing. We're still live, by the way.
Yep.
But I just wanted to make sure because
I know.
I hate interrupting people, and I would start to say something, and I felt like you couldn't hear me, or like you guys couldn't hear me. Is that the case, or am I good?
Huh?
Never mind. I'll watch it later. Nothing. You're such a jerk. All right. Okay, guys, we've been going a long time, and hey,
No, we could hear you.
I wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much for everyone who's stuck with us watching. Sorry that it was blurry, and thank you for hanging out with us. If anybody in the audience has any questions, now that we've been talking, please feel free to ask them. I'm not going to keep Dan and Lucy much longer, but I just wanted to make sure there weren't any questions. And thanks, Chris, for coming too. I know it's got to be early for you. And Dan, was there anything else you did want to talk about? I just, I'm still beating myself up about
Oh,
the stream.
not
So,
specifically. No.
you sure?
Well, it is what it is. You just,
We'll learn from
yeah.
it.
I mean, actually, it's been fine on my end. I mean,
Good.
um, I haven't had any issues with anything. So
Well, Lucy and I are gonna do some practicing
so I'm all good.
this week. Good. All right. Well, was there anything else you needed to share or anything like that, or anything? Just any questions that came through with MeWe and
No, nothing's.
okay. All right. Well,
Um, no, not specifically.
okay. Well, you seem hesitant. All right.
See, too bad Chris didn't jump in here with us, huh?
I know. Hey, Chris, actually, if you don't mind, if you've got 10 seconds, I'm not going to put you on the spot or ask you questions, but my one of my main goals is to see if there's any problem or which links work best. So let me throw them up there again, and if you have a second, just to see if the link works, I'm trying to see which ones work and which ones don't to let people jump in later. If you don't have time, it's okay. Hi, Edson. Edson's always the one that has problems. tell me if any of these links work, guys, if you want. If you can't, that's okay. We'll keep practicing. I was hoping that if I did one that, like, my attempt was to do one hangout where people could come in and go as they, every week it'd be the same hangout, but it's not worked out very well. So we'll see. But if you want to jump in real quick, feel free. If not, that's okay. Salty just jumped in with no problem. Hey, Salty. I did see your comment, Salty, about your next tank's going to be huge. Hopefully we get that baby a little growed up first. But, all right, guys. Well, I'm kind of stalling. Good night, Cheryl. Thank you for coming so much.
Sorry.
No, we're all distracted at this point. I'm going to guess that Chris probably can't right now. So,
Well, I'm sorry. I'm just answering another customer. I'm just writing a message to a customer, so I'm distracted for just a moment.
no, be distracted. In fact, guys, what I'm going to do, actually, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream for tonight because I'm anxious to get working on fixing it. So, okay, Chris said neither link is working. All right, you know what? Let me try one more thing then. Hang on. And the bottom line is, if it comes down to it, then the bottom line is we'll just have to do the signups. That's it. Because I know that also if I go like this. Anybody who was watching, we're pretending the stream's ended. I'm just trying to practice now here. All right. Give me 1 second, Chris. I just want to see if you can get in. Because that was kind of the problem we keep having. It's taking forever, of course. And Lucy, if you're still here, you put up a link earlier that got Harkins in. Can you throw that up and see if it works for Chris real quick? I'm just trying to see why some of these links work and some don't. Chris has been in here before. It shouldn't be any kind of problem. Unless I wonder maybe if you're on a something.
What about the link you sent me?
I'm trying to do that. My Gmail's taken 5 million years to open. I do know that actually, to be honest,
I can post the link you sent me if you.
Yeah, post the link. Post it. It doesn't matter. It'll be different next week. But yeah, the other thing I was gonna say is I found out that for a lot cheaper than Restream, I could do like a G Suite and then hold them, kind of. I've been researching, so we might have some different options to make it better. But yes, please feel free to post the link I sent you. See if that works.
I did.
Yeah, I saw. And it says it's being held for review. Huh. Try them all, Chris.
He's on his phone. You almost need to, if you emailed it directly to him,
That's
if
what I
you were
was
to email
trying
it
to
to him
do.
directly, he could just click on it and then it would pop open the Hangouts on his phone.
Well, I think that's going to be the bottom line is that people are just going to have to go through the site because I have it all set up. I just don't have it live yet, but go through the site and provide an email. I
Right.
think
The
that's
problem
going to
he's
be.
having is the problem that I have. Yeah. The problem he's having is the problem I have if you don't email me the link.
Yeah, see, that's so stupid. All right, let me just see if that's true. Let's just see, shall we? Really quick. All right. So, Chris. Sorry for the blank air, guys. If you're able to see how long this is taking to open, you would understand. I can't believe how long it's taking to open. It's ridiculous. I was told before that the longer a hangout goes, the hard, the jankier it gets. So that might be just the problem it is, but we'll see. All right, almost there, almost there. Jeez.
Lucy's
Okay.
ahead of you.
Lucy's already had me. Did you already email it to him, Lucy? Lucy's such a good wrench. So salty, I tell you. So Stan. Yeah, mine's
Yep.
still
She
not
emailed it.
open. Okay, well then I'm gonna close this because it's just not working. But yeah, jump in, Chris, if you want, just for a sec. I don't know what else.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris is in. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
How are you?
There you go.
Long time no
Good.
see.
Long time no see.
So none of the work links worked. You got to have it emailed, huh?
Yep, the email works. Yep.
Gotcha. Well, what have you been up to?
Kelly, the links work. The links work if you do it on a computer, but if you're on an iOS device, you have to have the email for it to open correctly.
You know what though? I mean, and Chris, I do want to say say
It
hi
works.
to Salty. You gonna say it worked for you? Yeah, it works for me. When I go onto other people's streams and I'm on my phone, I can jump right in. I don't know. I've asked them. They say they're
Yeah, I'm
doing
on
it
the
the same.
iPhone. It works.
But, anyways, Chris, how are you? What's up?
Yeah, good. Good. Just been busy with work and moving house and everything, so keeping me out of mischief.
Yes. Tell anything new at
You
Seahorse World you
moved?
want to share? Oh, I'll be quiet. You go ahead, Tan.
Lots of new things.
No, go ahead.
I do. Okay, I will say, and
Well,
when
she
we
was asking if there's anything you wanted to share, but
then I talked over you. What's been going on with you, Chris?
you go ahead.
Lots. It's been a busy few months. I've moved house, split up with my girlfriend or ex now, and just been hammered at work. Been lots happening, so that's why I've been pretty absent lately.
Do you guys have any new projects that you're allowed to talk about
No,
going on?
Um, just doing heaps of renovations at Seahorse World, updating a lot of the displays. I'm waging a bit of a war on pests, trying to get rid of some pests and parasites from some of the display tanks for the fish, not the seahorses. We're just about to renovate one of our areas on the tour, so our last room's about to get a total facelift and overhaul, and we're getting rid of a whole heap of old tanks and getting some new ones, and a good time, like, we're good.
do you get to work on the installation and the plumbing and all that stuff?
I do a little bit of that where I can. Like I fixed up a plumbing setup yesterday on one of our Seahorse displays because it just didn't really make sense but it's heaps better now. But I think there's still ways where I can improve it. But it's just one of those things, trying to juggle that as well as looking after all the displays, feeding all the seahorses, doing all the water changes. It's just a bit of a never-ending thing. So I just try and balance it where I can. We do have one of the aquarium technicians who is now our maintenance guy as well, who does a lot of the plumbing stuff. And the boss also does some plumbing stuff where needed. So between the three of us, we try and share out the load a bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We've just opened up a new restaurant or a cafe upstairs above Seahorse World. So the Cormorant Cafe, that's running now. So heaps of really big things happening in the business, and yeah, keeping us very, very busy.
I remember Rochelle saying that she was that was the next step. How is the restaurant? How is that working out? Is it going well?
Really, really good. The food's absolutely amazing. We've got a really talented group of like chefs and staff up there, really friendly people. So we're just coming into our really quiet time of the year, so it's probably going to be quiet up there, just due to low visitor numbers and that. But I'm really, really sort of optimistic about how things will be once the warmer weather comes back and the tourist season picks right back up.
I thought it was a brilliant idea. I think it's very, very cool to hear and see. I'm glad it's working out and going to work out when it picks up. So, anyways, okay, well, I can see that this is blurring all to heck, so I'm going to end the stream, guys, but I really, really appreciate everybody jumping in and coming, and we'll get this fixed up for next week, so maybe it'll be a little clearer. Anybody in the hangout, hang out for a second if you want, but I'm going to end the stream, guys, and thanks for coming to Wine Wednesday. We shall see you next week. Everybody say their byes. Okay, nobody's saying bye. I think
Bye.
there's like a huge delay. I don't know, but all right. See you guys next week. Happy Wine Wednesday.
All right, catch you guys.
Come back. Bye. Okay.